Enter the realm of KSBM Radio's creation. Student-led from inception to narration. Crafting content from dawn until dusk. All students involved in the work and the fuss. In the heart of town view where voices reside. Student-led discussions where ideas collide. From interviews with leaders, peers, and businesses. Just watch us work creating innovative content. Every aspect managed with student finesse. From podcast production to social media press. No task too daunting, no challenge too grand. KSBM Radio, we taking a stand. KSBM Radio, students leading the way. Every task idea, we seize the day. Witness now as all of our efforts break through. KSBM Radio, the voice of Town View.
Broadcasting live from Marvin E. Robinson School of Business and Management, Dallas, Texas.
My radio station.
We are KSBM Radio, the voice of Town View.
Hello and welcome back to KSBM Radio, the voice of Town View. I'm your host Emilia, and joining me are my fellow hosts,
Terrence, Ghost,
Simone.
And today we have a very special guest joining us today, Mrs. April Barney-Pouncey. And she has had a very versatile career that has taken a trip throughout different industries. She's also very involved in the community and is a teacher here at Townview with the School of Education and Social Services. Would you like to share anything with the audience?
Sure. My name is April Barney-Pouncey. I'm the CTE lead and instructor for Rosie Sorrells School of Social Services and Education. And this is my first year back teaching and my first year at Townview after a 10-year hiatus where I was working as a chef.
Okay, awesome. So on to our first question. Where did you grow up and what was your community like during your childhood?
So growing up, I moved around a lot. I pretty much covered the entire East Coast, the gambit of Texas, and so my community was ever-changing. I was exposed to a lot of culture, lots of different kinds of people, different socioeconomic backgrounds, so it kind of shaped me to who I am today.
And were there any particular experiences or mentors that influenced you back then?
Not as a child, but as an adult, I was incredibly fortunate to work with a lot of prominent chefs and learn a lot from them. And some of them you've probably seen on TV. I was always kind of a background person. That was never really my thing. But I was very fortunate in my career.
Were you like in any shows? Or anything?
I was not in any shows. I was recruited to do shows, but it just wasn't for me. I felt like if you stuck a camera on me while I was like working, I'd probably chop my finger off. So I was much better behind the scenes.
Okay.
Did you always have an interest in forensic anthropology, entomology, and education growing up, or did this interest develop later on?
So oddly enough, I started out, I finished school early, went into culinary school very early, and graduated from culinary school, was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, did not go work as a chef at that point, went back to school and ended up in a criminal justice program and then transferred into the Baylor Forensics program, which they had then. It was one of the flagship programs for forensics in the United States where they were offering an actual university degree in forensic science. And so I was really fortunate to have an opportunity to attend there. I was very passionate about it and really wanted to do it, but life took different turns for me, and I ended up back in the kitchen. So,
did this like influence like your view on teaching and all that? Like
it did. Everything I've done is there's been a teaching aspect to it. I just didn't realize it at the time. So teaching. Kind of, if you look at live, teaching is actually a part of everything that you do. But in the forensic world, I did a lot of workshops with entomology. So I would go to Texas A&M. I would actually travel around to different law enforcement agencies, and with my professor mentor, who I was a teaching assistant of, we would teach police officers how to collect insect evidence. I would assist with the labs at the university, so I was a teaching assistant. And I used to do a lot of stuff like that. So I was already kind of teaching and didn't realize it, didn't think about it. I was just helping out. And then And then in a kitchen, you're constantly teaching. You're constantly modeling something, showing someone how to do something. So everything kind of lent itself towards education.
How did your background in science influence your decision to go into culinary arts?
So it was actually reversed. So I went to culinary school first and then ended up doing science. So it was kind of interesting because there was like an ongoing joke around town for people who knew that I had a background in forensics, that I was the only like chef that could look at the rear end of a maggot and tell you how old it was. So
What was your experience attending culinary school, and how did it impact your life and career?
So I attended culinary school. I graduated from culinary school in 2000. I started in 97, so that was a very long time ago. And culinary school was very different. It was kind of the same thing with the forensic program. It was a pioneering program. Culinary school wasn't pioneer, but it wasn't as popular. There wasn't Food Network. There were like PBS cooking shows. But typically, if you wanted to be a chef, you either apprenticed or you went to a culinary school, but they weren't just readily available on every corner, so you had to go to the school wherever it was located at. And so I was very fortunate in the sense that I learned a lot of the business aspect of running a kitchen, which a lot of the schools that kind of popped up later on kind of glorified the industry of being a chef without really hammering in all of the math and science that goes into cooking, all of the business aspects of that for record keeping, knowing how to cost out your product, knowing how to do inventory, all those unfun things that chefs groan about all the time but need to know. So I was very fortunate that my culinary school education gave me that side of it as well.
Was there any like specific thing that made you want to teach culinary school or go to culinary school?
No, so ironically, everybody's like, oh, what's your favorite thing to cook? Are you really passionate about it? And no, actually. So it's kind of funny. I was always a very proficient cook. I was always very good at it. And my passion was with the forensics. That's why I spent a lot of money and went to Baylor. But culinary was something that I did because I could. I just had that natural kind of ability to gauge things and cook. And I cooked a lot. And I was like, well, I could probably make some money doing this. I was a young single mom, so I had a daughter at an early age. And I was like, well, I could do this to, take care of my child. And so that's what I did. And that was kind of how I became known later on, was the chef. That was my nickname around town, because when chefs needed somebody to come in and just get it done, they called me and I would come in and just get it done. So.
Okay, so what made you decide to return to teaching after working in the service industry?
So that's an interesting story. So I taught culinary for 6 years at Skyline, and that was kind of how I got pulled back into the industry. While I was teaching culinary at Skyline, I was also working as a chef, nights, weekends, summers, holidays, and in turn placing a lot of my students in the restaurants that I was working in on occasion. And so a lot of them got out of Skyline and already had been working in the service industry and went on to culinary school. I really love teaching culinary, but I just kind of got to a point where I wanted to challenge myself a little bit more, and a really good opportunity came along for me to be a corporate chef. And so I left and went back into the industry as a corporate chef for 3 years. And then I moved around and did a little bit of everything. And my last restaurant job was fine dining pastry. I do both savory and pastry. And I got burnt out, to be honest with you. I got tired of cooking. I loved the last kitchen I was in, but physically I got tired. My body was like, okay, you've been working these 14, 16-hour days too long. You're going to wear yourself out. And my husband, also being a principal, we were always on opposite schedules with work. He would be off in the summer and I would be working, and it was the same with every holiday that came up. And I have a couple of teaching degrees or teaching certifications, and so I was like, well, I think I'm going to go back into teaching. I applied and ended up here. I didn't originally apply for the lead position, but when the lead left, I got moved into that position, and so it's been a big learning curve this year.
Looking back at your time at Skyline, were there any memorable moments that had a lasting impact on you as a teacher?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So ironically, I still keep in touch with about 90% of my students that graduated over that 6 years. I can tell you where they are, what they're up to. Facebook is really good for that. But also just like I get random text messages. Hey chef, I'm gonna make this. What do you do with that? Or hey chef, I'm applying for this job. Can I put you down as a reference? I'm like, of course. I've been to funerals, I've been to weddings, I've been to parents' funerals, I've been to graduations outside of high school. I've experienced my students' lives. After some of my students graduated and I went back into the service industry, I had a crew of about 4 people, 4 to 6 people, just depending on what was going on, that would follow me from restaurant to restaurant that were my former students. So I really treasure them and the relationships that I built with them over the years. And now getting to see them as adults, having families and kids and stuff, it's pretty cool.
Do your students call you chef?
They still call me chef. Yeah, they still call me chef.
That's
Like
cool.
people, it's funny because occasionally somebody will see me that knows me from being a chef. Even here at Townview, some teachers that I know or had interacted with in the past, or just people from the public that were at a food event or something, are like, "Hey, chef," and I'm like, "Yeah," because it takes me a second to and then it just clicks back in. It's like, yeah, chef.
So, I'm sorry, but I was gonna say, do they call you to ask for recipes?
Oh, people call me all the time to ask me for recipes, or text me. And the biggest one was when TikTok first came out, and all those recipes were popping up on TikTok, and they would just show you in 10 seconds how to do something with no this is what you need, this is all this stuff. So I would get a lot of these text messages, ironically from old college classmates of. So I saw this thing on TikTok and I want to make it, but I don't really know what's in it or whatever. So I have to send them a list, look at the videos, send them a list of ingredients and tell them what to do. And I'm like, I'm going to start charging for follow-up TikTok consulting. So, yeah.
Follow-up questions after this, please.
All right, now we're going to move on to some present questions. What has been your most challenging and rewarding experiences you face as a leader at ESSM? And how are you addressing them?
So probably just learning the systems. Coming back, when I was at Skyline, I was the culinary lead for the district. So I worked with all the culinary programs kind of as a liaison with the CTE office. So I was kind of used to that piece of it, and that was my wheelhouse. So I was real comfortable in that skin. But coming back, I'm teaching new content that I've never taught before, which is great. I'm getting to learn along with my students. I'm also managing a lot of administrative duties, and so I'm having to learn those systems and navigate that. And so this year, workload and balancing workload and still being able to teach my students the content that they need, in a way that they can receive it. And being flexible with them and just kind of navigating the entire process has just been the biggest challenge. But going into this semester, I feel a lot more comfortable, and I feel really good about next year because I won't be reinventing the wheel and learning the wheel at the same. It's like flying a plane while you're building it. So I won't be doing that next year.
Okay.
The plane will be assembled.
Well, that's good. How has your diverse experiences in forensic science, culinary arts, and the service industry influenced your teaching approach?
I would say that it's given me an opportunity to kind of bring a lot of things full circle. I keep it real with my students, so I do not run my classroom like a kitchen, but in a lot of ways, I do, I guess, in a sense. We're hoping I ordered a stove and a refrigerator. Hopefully it'll be here soon so that we can actually do some cooking for my seniors. And then next year we'll offer a class that has a little bit of opportunity to cook, which would be great. Because while I'm not trying to teach them how to be chefs, I would like to pass on some of those good life skills so that when you go off to college, you're not just eating ramen all the time. Or if you're eating ramen, you know how to fix it up. So definitely that. I love science. I love current events. I'm a big newsy. I like to keep up with what's going on in the world. And so I introduce a lot of science articles and current event articles into my classes and my lessons relative to whatever we're learning at the time. I do a lot of research. I subscribe to like a ton of news sites from all over the world, from all different backgrounds, so that I can get really broad information. And sometimes I may give them an article from like France or, about a perspective on some scientific thing that we would have like otherwise never known about. So it's fun. I try to be really diverse in that. And anytime there's something cool, sciencey going on, I'm like, ooh, like I could go hang out at SEM too, like, and just check them out sometimes. But yeah, I'm definitely a big science nerd, and I really enjoy that. And kind of bringing things full circle, showing the life relevance of science and food, and just all of the things that have impacted me and how they're relevant to just everyday life with my students.
Do you think you would open it up as a club so everybody?
So we are talking about that for next year, about having a cooking club. So bonus, shout out to my co-teachers, Ms. Demars and Ms. Clifton down in ESSM. Ms. Clifton has a culinary background as well, and hers is primarily in pastry. And then she also does a lot of community work in like working with her community in healthy foods through her church. And so I am really looking forward to partnering with her next year to potentially roll out a cooking club. And we would like to open it up to, other schools as well. And I also am the crochet club sponsor, and we are open to anyone coming down, and I always have snacks. So I just wanted to plug my crochet club on there. I don't crochet, but I'm the sponsor. So there you go.
Do you have like, so if you start your club, what would you start the dishes off? Like, would you teach them cooking?
Simple things. So the first thing that, as soon as I get my equipment and I have like everything I need in place, mise en place, everything in its place. As soon as I have that, then the first thing that we'll do is, weirdly enough, assuming the egg prices go down, is cook eggs every way that you can cook an egg, because it's ironic and really crazy how many people do not know how to cook eggs. I've worked many a brunch at hotels and restaurants and out in the middle of nowhere at an event, and it's shocking how many people would come in to stage, which in the food industry, a stage is a working interview. So you can't just bring your resume and be like, oh, I did all this stuff. Somebody's going to say, hey, come hang out with us for a couple of hours and let's see what you can do. That's very typical in the food industry. And so we would have stages come in, and I would put them on the egg station, because that was like, if you're working breakfast or brunch or anything, you have to be able to do eggs. And people order eggs a million different ways. And so teaching everyone how to cook eggs and how to make like a nice omelet and how to like do the various scrambles and like how to poach an egg, how to go through the various boils of an egg, and we're just going to eat a lot of eggs, assuming the egg prices go down and I can actually afford to buy eggs. So
I think we might come down there and stop by.
I'll let you know.
I don't know how to poach an egg. So.
Yeah, it's it's a technique. It's not hard, but there's little tricks to it. And so knowing those little tricks that somebody has to teach you, like that's how you get it. Yeah.
And do you think like in your club, would you implement, like, I know you said there's like skills you need, like managing the finances. Would you implement that into your club as well?
I might. Definitely. It's something that I would definitely talk about in my class. And I'm open to any conversations, in the club for sure. Because those things are important, especially just knowing your food costs and learning how to budget. That stuff is important as you guys like move out into the real world and are going to be shopping for your groceries. And it's, it's important to know how to budget those things. And so definitely we'll touch on it because, and the other part is being cautious with the food when you're actually doing it. So doing it with an intent of getting an actual product that you can consume and not like burning up your eggs and then we have to toss them. So yeah, definitely that part.
So being named Educator of the Year by the Texas Chef Association is such an achievement. What do you think made you stand out?
I work hard. Like I'm a hard worker. Everything I do, and I don't mind saying that about myself because it's true, to my own detriment sometimes. Everything I do, I put 100% into, plus I've always had a really strong work ethic. That was, again, kind of rolled back to the chef thing. If somebody needed me, I was there. And my mom always taught me, leave it cleaner than you found it. And so I would be cleaning their kitchens up and leaving them looking better than they were when I got there. And they're like, yeah, we want her to come over here because she cleans the kitchen. But, so I bring a lot of work ethic. I think that's something that I can teach anybody how to do. Any skill in the kitchen, like if I know how to do it, I can share it with somebody else. Things I can't teach are showing up on time, working hard when you get there, covering other people when they need your help. So having that camaraderie, all of the things that go into work ethic. And those are things that I really have within myself, and I've always modeled it. When I was in the kitchen, and even when I was teaching, there was nothing in the kitchen that I wouldn't do. There's been plenty of times that I've jumped in the dish pit and ran, because a dish pit is an essential part of a restaurant or a kitchen, and without that, your restaurant will not be able to stay open because they don't have enough forks in the restaurant to serve everyone a separate fork for the night. Those forks have to be washed when they come back and go back out, believe it or not. So if you don't have someone in the dish pit washing your dishes for you, your restaurant will not make it through the night. And so I've washed dishes, I've cleaned vent hoods and floor drains and mucked out garbage disposals up to here, and, hauled trash and cleaned up crazy messes and all of those things, because I've always felt like I can't ask somebody to do something I'm not willing to do myself. So
How do you maintain motivation to continue pursuing challenges both in culinary arts and education?
wake up. Like, you got to wake up motivated. Sometimes it's hard. I'm human, so I get tired. I get discouraged occasionally, like anybody else. But I really enjoy my students. I really enjoy interacting with other students in the school. You guys are always welcome in my classroom, as long as you're not supposed to be in somebody else's class. And I just really enjoy that interaction with the students. I like hearing what you guys have to say. I always want the tea, what's going on. So I love that interaction. That kind of keeps me motivated. Like, even on a day that I'm really tired, I'm like, oh, I have these students today, so I don't want them to miss out on whatever. And if I didn't want to come in or something, I end up getting up and coming in anyways, so.
How have your teaching certifications shaped your approach to creating an inclusive and supportive classroom environment?
So I have 2 teaching certifications, and then I have like a side cert. But so one is family consumer science. So that umbrella is anything under that, which is culinary, hospitality, what I'm teaching now, social services and human services, education. All those things kind of fall under that umbrella of family consumer science. It's a big umbrella. But I also have a special education certification. And so I haven't ever actually practiced that, but I've been in on a lot of special education opportunities and stuff. And so just me in general, and kind of going back to what we talked about in the beginning with being exposed to a lot of diverse groups growing up and different people in areas, it really kind of just shaped me into an all-accepting person. Like, I'm a judgment-free zone. So, I think that helps me see when there's a need for somebody to be included, or to I'm good at picking up when there's something going on. And so I've navigated so many different situations in so many different environments that I found that you can usually find an approach, to bring people in, like to bring them back into the group, one way or the other. So,
what motivated your decision to apply for UNT's part-time law program, and how does it align with your long-term goals?
So I haven't applied yet. I'm going to, though. I'm in the process of trying to prep myself to take my LSAT. This was so I was actually planning to do that before I came back to teaching, but event after event just kind of hammered me away from it, and I ended up here, and I'm really glad for that. But I still plan to pursue higher education, and it was kind of one of 2 things. I can either get a master's degree, or I can go to law school. And having the forensics background, I've always had a really strong interest in the law. And again, that's where my passion lies. And so I decided that I'd like to do part-time law and a law program at UNT, and they have a concentration in the area that I'm interested in practicing, which would be social justice and civil rights. And so it's something that once I get a handle on things here and I feel good that I'm like in a place where, okay, I got this, then I can like potentially take that on, because I know a lot of teachers do take on, like graduate programs and stuff. And it's a 5-year program, so it stretches out a little bit longer, but it's just something I'd like to have in my arsenal of things that I've accomplished. So, and if you get a traffic ticket, it's always great to be able to represent yourself in court. So there's that.
Okay, so as you plan to pursue your law degree, how do you see this intersecting with your education career and culinary arts?
So I don't know about culinary. Believe it or not, there are restaurant attorneys, and restaurants need attorneys a lot. And I actually know somebody that works in a restaurant law group. So they specialize in restaurant stuff. But that's not the direction that I want to go. So I will probably be putting a lot of my culinary stuff on the back burner. I think it'll intersect with law with education and law, those kind of go hand in hand. So I think the two will just kind of intersect anyways. So we teach people to be teachers in ESSM, but we also teach them human services. So, and that really is kind of that undercurrent of law, of working with all these diverse groups of people and helping them get the services and resources that they need. And I think that's like a huge thing that we do that's kind of overlooked. Right now, our students are going through to get their certifications to be community health workers. And community health workers are like, and it's really cool because it's something I didn't know about until I came here, but I'm learning. And I had to go through the certification myself. But it's finding resources for people in areas and communities, which could be your own community, and advocating for them, and being a community organizer and learning how to get these resources and services and direct people to them. So I think it's just a really cool thing that we do down there. We're kind of down there and it's quiet and people don't know all the things that we do, but we do a lot of cool stuff down there.
How do you balance your different passions and responsibilities from culinary arts to teaching to law?
I don't sleep. It's funny because, true story, like I said that I was going back to teaching so that I could kind of like wrangle my life in a little bit. And I was talking to a friend who owns a pastry shop last night, and we were talking, and she was tempering chocolate at like 9:00 at night at her shop. And I was like, I just got home a little while ago. I was like, I traded one workload for another. Like I didn't know when I, got out of the kitchen that I was going to be like exchanging the same workload in education, but it's a different kind of workload. It's not as physically taxing in a lot of ways. It is a lot of brain power, which is fine. I got lots of that. So, but I think that, as I move forward, I'm hoping that I can put, the food stuff a little bit on the back burner and just really focus on, the other two aspects and try something new. I will always get called to go cook somewhere. Occasionally I do still do events. If I'm invited and the money is right, I'll do that. But other than that, I try to I've learned how to say no, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I would say you make really good cupcakes. I tried the cupcakes, you make really good cupcakes. Yeah.
I'm starting to
That's
talk
funny.
about how good your cupcakes are. I've never had.
That's hilarious. Okay, I'll let you guys know next time I bring something in.
I'm always telling them, I really want a cupcake.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you know next time I bring something in.
I'll be coming down.
I got you.
We're going to move on to some future questions. What kind of legacy would you like to leave behind for your students and community?
I hope to be the person that I want to be remembered for working hard, for fighting for the people that, couldn't necessarily fight for themselves, hence the law degree. But with my students, I just always want to be available. Like I said, with my Skyline kids, I still get phone calls, I still get text messages, I still get Facebook, what is going on, that kind of stuff. So I want to be I want to continue to be that person. You know, I want to see what my students do after they graduate. I want to see the people that they become and where they go, and be available if they need something. Like that for me is the legacy that I'd like to continue.
How do you see your legal expertise like coming into your education, and like what do you want to see within the CTE program?
So within the CTE program for ESSM, we're looking at kind of streamlining things. I would love we're implementing new classes or bringing back some old things, just kind of reevaluating the needs of our students in a changing society and making sure that everything that we do is relevant, and that it has the right impact. I think the worst thing that can happen to a CTE program, and I saw this, and it's kind of crazy to learn how many programs. When I was at Skyline, we had like tons of clusters and CTE programs, and a lot of them have kind of phased out over the years. And to me, it's kind of sad. Some of it because that was no longer relevant. The industry's completely changed. But I think that that's a key piece of CTE is keeping things relevant and making sure that the students get some real world application out of it, that they see how it relates to what they can do in the real world.
So what are your goals for the future, both professionally and education and beyond?
So the goals: get through that LSAT, apply to law school. That's probably the short-term goal. That's probably the hardest one. Taking a little more time for myself occasionally. Right now, it's I have an hour commute from here, so, and it's not even that far, but it's just traffic. So it takes me a little less time in the morning, but in the afternoons, it definitely takes me at least an hour to get home. So it puts me getting home a little bit later. So I'm really gonna take this summer, having the summer time off to do some things that I want to do. It's been years since I've had like a block of time like that where I could just say, okay, this is what I want to do with this time, and kind of recharge and come back with lots of new ideas.
Do you have any like hobbies or things you're looking forward to?
Hobbies. I'm trying to, okay, so I am a comic. If you've been in my classroom, you already know, but I'm a comic, sci-fi, fantasy junkie, not so much into anime. I just never clicked with anime, but I'm also like really into literary stuff. I like to read. I listen to audiobooks all the time because I can do it in my car on that long commute. So I knock out like audiobooks like 2 or 3 a week. So I'm constantly learning, but I really enjoy that stuff. I've read Harry Potter like 1,000,000 times. I'm a Ravenclaw. Shout out to Ravenclaw. Anyways, but I love going to the movies. I like going the first weekend that things open. I'm so looking forward to the new Captain America movie. Like, I cannot wait for it. But also Paddington. So, and I'm dragging my grandson to go see Paddington with me because I also drug him to see the Lord of the Rings anime that came out. So I did go to that one. And I was like, you're just going to be my hostage today. We're going. So, and he's going to go see Paddington with me because I would go by myself otherwise. My husband's definitely not going to see Paddington with me. But I love going to the movies and just learning, honestly, anything I could do to learn. So,
What would you say is your like favorite movie?
ooh, okay, that's tough. So I love an epic war movie. So I'm a huge fan of Braveheart, which is kind of an older movie about like the Scottish Revolution, if you will, or whatever, when they had their, and I'm like super Scottish on one side and Jewish on the other. So I have a really interesting mix of a family dynamic. My dad wore a kilt to my wedding, but my mom is Jewish and I grew up Jewish. So it's very interesting dynamic there. But so Braveheart's one of them. I really love Gladiator. But the extended version of the Lord of the Rings trilogy is like right at the top, and I did spend an entire weekend, and that's like whole 12 hours worth of movie watching. So I did spend an entire weekend and like pushed through it, and it was great. You know, I love the Harry Potter movies, but not as much as I used to, because the books, I'm looking forward to the series. I hope they include more from the books, because I just feel like the movies don't do the books justice. But yeah, those are probably like in my top movies. I'm sure there's like a ton others, but.
And do you have a favorite comic?
So yes, I'm a huge Wonder Woman junkie. I have a pretty extensive Wonder Woman collection at home. We have like a spare room that's like it's like our spare room, office / my craft room, but it's all Wonder Woman. And then there's a little pockets of other things like Star Wars, but mostly like Princess Leia and the Ewoks. Because you have to understand, when I was growing up, there weren't like a ton of female superheroes, you know? And so I had like She-Ra, Wonder Woman, and Princess Leia. And those were my three. And like, but I also liked He-Man. I had Castle Grayskull. But yeah, so Wonder Woman, definitely. I love the Marvel stuff. I'm a huge Captain America fan, like Captain America. So I'm excited to see kind of the direction this is going with the new movie and everything. But yeah.
Have you ever been to like a Comic-Con or something?
I have. I have. And I've dressed up. And the last thing I went to where I dressed up like that is I dressed up like Peggy Carter from Captain Carter. And my brother bought me like the authentic shield and all this stuff. So I have some crazy stuff at the house. But I go to the Renaissance Festival and dress up. I went a little too far backwards. I went more like Iron Age picked last time I went. And of course, some of you know my husband, so he just walks around in his jean and t-shirts like my life hostage as I do this crazy stuff. So
He's just there for you.
he is my life hostage. Yes.
As a longstanding board member of Les Dames d'Escoffier, how do you see your role evolving with the legal background, and could this lead to advocacy or policy work within the culinary arts industry?
So interestingly enough, yeah, I'm a member of Les Dames of Escoffier. It's an international culinary organization that is women-centered, and so it's been around for a very long time, and there's a lot of really notable dames that have come and gone and are still part of the organization. Chef Tiffany Derry, Carla Hall, Virginia Willis, Julia Child was a La Dame. So you can understand the rich background of the organization. We give scholarships to women who are entering into the service industry field, and it doesn't just have to be like working in a kitchen. We have dames that are sommeliers, so they're wine experts. We have food writers. We have now we have food bloggers. We have PR people. We have attorneys that work in the restaurant industry, food photographers, and it's just a very wide expanse. Of course, we have chefs and event planners and hospitality experts. But it's an elite program. It's an honor to be a part of it, and we do a lot of good. And I hope that, as I grow in my career, that I'm able to contribute even more to that and bring new ideas. So.
What advice would you give to students who are passionate about multiple fields?
Go for it. Just do it. Just chop those trees. You can only chop, one tree at a time, but you can still chop a bunch of trees in a day. So chop those trees. If you want to do it all. Don't hold yourself back. Don't put yourself in a box. Knock it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, on to some fun things. If you had to be a dish, what would you choose, and how would it represent you, and why?
Oh, goodness. I would probably be, that's a really great question. That's tough.
Something sci-fi.
I know. Honestly, I don't know. I would probably be something with ahi tuna with some spice, because I can be a little spicy sometimes, all of my students know I'm like super cool, but there's a line. Like I have like a point where it's like, okay, don't cross that line. And then I actually go into chef mode and it's like, don't cross that line. But I'm a little raw, like still flavorful and, but a little bit raw, sometimes I have to think about things before I say them. That comes from working in a kitchen for a long time too. But yeah, probably something like that, like just a nice flavorful like ahi tuna with some spice and a little salty, a little savory, yeah.
So what's something most people don't know about you and that you think is important? It's important.
Ooh, that's interesting, because I am pretty much an open book. What do people not know about me? Trying to think. Ironically, most people don't know I have a forensics degree, but you guys know that. So most people just know me as a chef. They're like, what? You went to where? You went to Baylor? You did this? You did that? So no, I don't know. I think you guys kind of know the gambit now. So
We know
I don't know. I'm just an open book. Y'all know about Wonder Woman and everything. So I don't know.
What's your opinion on the Dune movies?
Love the Dune movies. Okay, so true story. During the shutdown, I had my own baking business, and I used a corner of a kitchen, a commercial kitchen. I had a space in there, and I used to do baking by delivery and custom orders and stuff. And I would be up there all night sometimes because I'd do the custom cookie orders that were like, the royal icing with all the intricate designs and stuff, and they take a long time. And so I would stay at the kitchen all night long, and I'd listen to audiobooks while I was up there working, because I was there by myself. And I went through every single Dune book.
You like listening to Dune while multitasking?
Yeah, I would always, in the kitchen, I always had an audiobook going with one earbud in. And so I could hear what was going on the outside. This tells you exactly how ADD I am. I could listen to an entire audiobook and regurgitate it back to you, all while doing everything I needed to do in the kitchen and having just one earbud in so I could hear if somebody was behind me or whatever. Because when you're in a kitchen and you're walking around with hot things, you have to yell hot and behind. And so people don't back up and walk into your pot of hot whatever, there's a lot of verbal communication. And so I always had one earbud in listening to a book while also listening to my surrounding. But I got through all of the Dune books. And so I really enjoy the movies. Like, of course, they leave stuff out. Yeah, but so far, they're pretty good. And I watched the show that came out on Max recently, the Dune Prophecy. Yeah. I think that's pretty good. It's totally like out of the ballpark, not anything related to anything, but I think it's pretty good. So,
if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Push harder earlier. Like, push harder and pursue things earlier. Don't waste time.
That's good. Everyone needs to hear something like that.
Yeah. You can take that gap year, but make sure that it counts. Like, don't waste it. Don't take a gap year sitting at the house. Like, if you take a gap year, do something with it. Like, and you won't regret it later.
So it's like staying productive throughout your gap year?
Stay productive. Senioritis could almost be a gap year. Not calling anybody out, just saying. But and if you go into college, and you're you want to join an organization or you want to have an impact in your community, if you go off to school somewhere, learn about where you are. Learn about where you are. Learn about what the people in that area, what the needs are of those people. Be an impact while you're there, because you're there in their space. So, yeah.
If you had a book, what would the name be?
My Hot Mess. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. That's a hard one. I don't know. I have to think on that. I'll get back to y'all.
Okay, we'll be waiting.
I'll let you know.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Ms. Pouncey. We are grateful for the insightful conversation. Your words have truly inspired us. To all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned for more captivating interviews with special guests, and don't forget to connect on our social medias down below. Until next time, this is KSBM Radio, signing off with gratitude and excitement. Stay awesome.
Thank you for listening to KSBM Radio, the voice of Townview.
My radio station.
We hope you enjoyed the great content and great discussion, all from a student's perspective. Make sure to follow us on Twitter for the latest updates at KSBM_TVT or on Facebook at KSBM Radio.
Add them on Facebook.
Check them on Facebook.
Take care.